Santelli. Welcome to another edition of Soundstage, a monthly public program brought to you by the Bruce Springsteen Archives and Center for American Music on the campus of Monmouth University at the New Jersey Shore. Last month for Soundstage, I spoke to David Sanchez, a former E Street Band keyboards player who has a great new album out called Eyes Wide Open. Today, we head to Arizona and visit with Nils Lofgren, where we'll get a sneak peek of his soon-to-be-released album. It's called Weathered. Welcome to Soundstage, Nils.
Thanks, Bob. It's good to see you again.
Very exciting, with brand new album coming out. It's called Weathered. It's a double album. And let's start by talking about the title. When I hear the name Weathered, I think of something that's old and been around the block a little bit. An interesting title. How did you come up with it and why?
Well, the band collectively probably has a couple centuries of road experience. And, the times we're in are so trying on every human soul that it was kind of like we felt like a bunch of old friends with not enough rehearsal time to throw together a show. And the theme was jamming, react to each other, constantly surprising each other. There was really no holds barred. And there was a song, actually it made the album. It's a ballad from my last studio record, Blue with Lou, called Too Blue to Play. And it's about an old Special Forces vet that comes back with serious PTSD and just tries to go hide away and live a solitary life and just tune out from society. And inexplicably, he runs into a situation where he finds a beautiful soulmate anyway and gets to experience something that he thought was gone forever for him. And there's a line in that song, I'm too weathered, I'm just too blue to play. Like, there was some point you're just so beat up, can't play games, no bull, you just want something serious and peaceful, keep it calm. And I thought it was a great word I used in that song. It just seemed appropriate as we went from town to town in America with these dear old friends. Kevin McCormick, our fabulous bass player, I've got, many, many years on the road with all these people. But I think Cindy, who, of course, Mizell, the great Cindy Mizell, who I did a lot of singing with on the Wrecking Ball tour, she might be the youngster of the group. And Kevin affectionately would call us occasionally Cindy and the Dinosaurs. But anyway, I thought it was a good word and appropriate for this group. My brother Tommy made a point because he got a copy of the album early and was listening. He said, we don't sound like a bunch of old guys at all.
You don't.
That is a high compliment.
Oh, yeah. Well, you certainly don't. And it's interesting because, first of all, you get a really good sense of what you're like live. It's a double album after all. And some of the tracks on it really, you guys really stretch out. You in particular stretch out on guitar.
It's interesting. I hadn't played with a band in over 15 years of my own, as I was jumping from E Street shows to Neil Young and Crazy Horse shows to my own acoustic shows. And early on, the idea of recording came up, and I said, no, I don't want to record. I want to go from town to town, have each night be completely different, improv, and really let it fly. And I don't want that headspace of making a record. And just before we left, Amy, my wife, said, please just record them just to have. And I said, okay, but my frame of mind was, this is just to have fun with a band and not overthink it, and certainly not make it an album. And it wasn't until well after the tour that I listened to some primitive rough mixes by our sound man, Matt Bittman, who did a great job. And I had to admit, with this cast of characters, there was something special going on there that warranted sharing, especially now we walk into the pandemic where no one's out playing, nor is anyone going out to hear music, which is something Amy and I do fairly regularly and miss a lot. So I thought it was also a good time to share that live vibe and feel.
Now, the album isn't a live show per se, but a collection of performances as you went through this particular tour, right?
Correct. I think there were 19, 20 shows. We got pretty much almost all of them recorded. And, this was kind of like how the set went. We would change 4 or 5 songs a night, and certainly the jams would change drastically. I call it going fishing. You know, I'll go off and give myself permission to, you know, have rough, frayed edges. But as long as we're looking for something special, I think the audience feels that. But yes, it was kind of similar to the show we did, but I took the best versions, of course, from the 19 Nights.
Right.
I think it wound up being from 7 or 8 cities. We assembled this list of songs, but I wanted to take the best versions and give people the best snapshot of what this tour was.
For those who are listening who might have been at one of those shows, what's the time frame here? From when to when?
Well, look, we started beginning of May and went to early June. We were out for, you mean that kind of time frame? Yeah.
And what year?
Oh, I'm sorry. This was last year. In fact, it was kind of fascinating. As I was getting ready to do this and very excited and challenged to do my first band tour in over 15 years, out of the blue, Neil Young called and said, "Hey, let's make an album." The last 2 shows we did in Winnipeg with Neil, he really felt good about. And he said, "I've been writing. I know you've got a tour coming up." He was kind enough to put Blue with Lou on his archive site. But then we worked it out and literally went up there for about 11 days. Amy drove me up to Telluride. There was a great studio there that we used, and she hung out a few days, came back 10 days later to pick me up. And literally we drove off the mountain in a snowstorm, hail, a blizzard, a windstorm, and got down into Cortez, caught a few little sleep and drove all the way back to Scottsdale. And I literally got home and went to the airport to pick up Andy Newmark, the drummer from England, to start rehearsing for the Weather Tour. So it was a lot of great music going on, and it was very exciting for me to just frenetically throw a show together with this cast of characters. I mean, we could use some more rehearsal time, but it actually kept everything very fresh. We didn't overthink anything, and every night changed a lot because everyone was very free to contribute whatever they felt or heard. I said, "Don't talk to me about it. If you hear it, play it on the spot, please." Especially with Cindy, pass the singing. I said, "Cindy, pass the singing," which I know she does great, and something she did a lot of with these 2 bands. I said, "If you get an idea to scat or just be another instrument, forget lyrics, please just do it. Don't overthink it. If you feel it, sing it." And it really paid off because you hear her kind of bobbing and weaving throughout this record.
Yeah. You know, one of the things that I noticed the first time I listened to the record, and then just recently this morning, and that is that there is a comfort with everybody's performance. There's no formality to it, and that's a good thing. It's informal, it's loose, it's almost like everyone's just sitting around enjoying playing, and there just so happens to be an audience there.
No, you're right, Bob. And interestingly enough, because look, first of all, I'm a human being that makes mistakes every day. And I had it in my head as a gift to myself. I wanted to go to these little 300-400 seat clubs with this great band on a bus together with our crew. I do not want to think about making a live record. I just want every night to be its own stamp for the people in the room. So I was like on my high and mighty horse. And when Amy said, "Could you just please record it for me?" And Matt Bittman, our sound man, got the tapes out to record it. I knew we weren't making a record, and I gave myself that extra freedom of being loose and rough and not ever going there. And it really, it's kind of like somehow I tricked myself into staying in the loosest place I could be. And all of us enjoyed the hell out of it. And then later I discovered, well, maybe this is something worth sharing.
Yeah, I mean, you take the pressure off and the burden off, and you just go out and have fun. And if you have something good, you can do something with it. And fortunately, you do. I mean, the record is really wonderful. I have to say, your playing on the album, your guitar riffs and your solos are really great. And it's wonderful how you interact with your brother Tom as well. And I know you guys go back a long, long way.
Yeah, you know, it was so great. Originally, we thought, of course, Cindy's always out with Steely Dan or some big act. And, you know, Amy encouraged me, look, you got to ask everyone, see if you can get the band that made the record. And amazingly, everyone was up for it. And of course, I needed somebody at the swing position. And, you know, top of my list is always my brother, who's not always available. Tom made time with his job and family. And it really completed the whole picture. going back to, getting out there. Tommy does my acoustic shows when I play in DC, but instead of moonlighting on a gig or two, to come for the whole run. And it just was really exceptional, special feeling to get out there. Tommy did a lot of touring with us with the Wonderland group, which was Andy and Kevin. And for me and Kevin and Tommy, who were the singers, to have Cindy there with us, I mean, we've all sung a lot, but man, you throw her in the mix. And, I was blessed to do a lot of that on the Wrecking Ball tour, working on A Dream, Magic. But it was just a sensational trip with these friends on this bus going town to town.
Speaking of Cindy, I guess you gave her lead vocals on Big Tears Fall, I think, and wow, does she nail it. And you can tell at the end when you reintroduce her and give her kudos, the audience really picked up on the fact that, man, this woman is not just a backup singer by any means. She is someone who can stand in front of a lead microphone and take it away.
Yeah, that's one of the songs, if I got to pick one, I'd love you to play and share with people, because, past the harmonies, I knew it would be great. And past asking Cindy to please stay open to any place you hear anything, do it, because it'll kick us all and give us a lift. I was determined to pick a song for her to sing. And before we got to rehearsals, I picked that song. The original record on Flip, it's almost a dance track. It's got a really hypnotic drum beat with Andy inside a drum machine. And I wanted across from that to have a pulse, but have like something warm, like in my acoustic version. And we came up with that arrangement and, turned her loose. And again, we didn't have really all the time we wanted. So we were on the road kind of putting it together. And after about 2 or 3 shows, I said, you know what, Cindy, we're going to have to start getting that song in the set every night. So we hit it at the sound checks couple days in a row. And I said, you ready to start tomorrow night? And once we got it in the show, we never pulled it out. And I really, hats off to her. But I knew I had to have a song to turn her loose as a lead vocalist.
Why don't we hear a little bit of Big Tears Fall featuring Cindy Mizell on lead vocals.
Ooh, ooh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Is anybody really happy now? Don't dreamers get the blues. The hustlers make the millions. The losers pay the dues. Yes, they do now. So what of the
Man, that was amazing. She is really, really something. And I'm really glad she got the chance to really showcase her lead vocal talents there. One of the interesting things, Nils, is, you've played obviously for many, many years in the E Street Band. You've had this long-term relationship with Neil Young. And yet now this is your band. Is there a difference for just going out and being a part of the band as opposed to being the leader of the band, where you basically have to communicate with the audience? You have to make sure the pace of the show is right. You have to make sure the sets are right. It's a lot of pressure on leading a band. Do you enjoy that? And how do you do it?
Well, I do enjoy it, Bob. And way back, I remember I hit the road when I was 17. In fact, next month, September, will be 52 years on the road.
Oh.
Little startling number. But I remember just a year after Gwen hit the road, went out to LA looking for a record deal. I was 18, living with David Briggs, Neil Young's producer, driving in his VW beat-up Bug through Topanga Canyon Hills, cranking Creedence Clearwater Revival on the way to Neil Young's house to record After the Gold Rush. And I still remember turning to David, even though I was kind of jazzed and nervous making that record with Neil, especially as a piano player, because I'd never done piano sessions. I said, it's really neat not to be the band leader. It's really neat just to be in a band. And at a very young age, I discovered that I can thrive in that arena. it's actually very healthy to do a stint in a great band, not as the band leader. Because you see, as a band leader, of course, there's many non-musical tasks and jobs that are required. And I've done so much of it. You know, Grin was a democracy, but I wrote the songs and kind of a co-band leader. And I've just done so much of it that, you know, each job, the one similarity is you want to get to when you walk on stage, you can turn your mind off, trust your musical instincts, completely get down in it with your bandmates and kind of forget everything else and let the music take all of you to a place you may never get to again that night, thanks to the energy of the crowd. So, of course, here we are. I've hired a band, haven't played with the band in 15 years, but I know all these extra things I've done so often must be done, or I will not be walking out feeling great, to let everything go and embrace. And so you just do that. You make your little notebook. Oh, I got to do this. I got to talk to the crew. That, and you know, just much like Bruce does, a band leader walks in with, you know, a few little notes like, hey, last night this happened. Let's explore it. Let's fix it. Let's encourage it, whatever. But just subtle things that, yes, it is different. But the goal is to get that non-musical stuff out of the way and get back to the place where you can walk out and just feel like, hey, I'm ready to be free and let my musical instincts take over.
During this conversation, Nils, you more than once mentioned your wife, Amy. It seems like she's more than just your wife or soulmate. She plays an important part in your life, musically speaking, as well.
Yeah, you know, early on when we were dating, music came up, and I was kind of wondering what her take was, and all of a sudden she recited, Peter Gabriel came up, and she recited the entire lyric to In Your Eyes over the phone. And I knew I was, you know, dating the right girl, past, you know, loving her and wanting to get to know her more. That's a big plus. And she's not burdened with any of the show business or any of the angles that I inevitably once in a while think about. She just gives a very honest take, and it's very helpful and useful. You know, I might not always agree with it, but it's always a very useful opinion to have. She also does all the merchandise. She designs all the packaging with Dick and Linda Bangham, who do a sensational job putting all our album art together. And, you know, she was very instrumental in designing, you know, the covers and then the shirts and getting us all counted and giving whoever's selling them tips as we go out on the road. So she is my partner in the business too, but she's not burdened with all my angst and drama of being in the music business all my life.
It also helps that she's a Jersey girl as well.
Yeah, we actually met at the Stone Pony many years ago. In fact, we had a fun night at the Stone Pony and the Empress Motel together. I had to leave at 6 a.m. for Boston. I asked her 100 times to come on the bus. I put her on a train home the next day, and she said no. My mom would kill me. I got a job, and of course I'm drinking heavily, and it's 5 a.m. and I'm like, give me your mom's number. I'll square it. I'll call your boss. Give me and she said no. So, you know, I played in Jersey 3-4 times a year, and I thought for sure she'd walk up the next show. I didn't see her for 15 years. And then after a show here in Scottsdale 24 years ago, she walked up at the end of the night and said, hi, remember me? We were both at the end of divorces, and thankfully I remembered more about the night than she even did. And we've been together ever since, thankfully.
That's a great story. Well, she's done a wonderful job on the album cover, because the record is, the album, the liner notes, just the graphics, everything about the cover is really, really nice, and it matches who you are too. So hats off to her and her team who put it together.
Thanks. You know, I just want to give a shout out. It is a beat up, weathered package.
It is.
And early on, you know, we were trying to figure out what to do, and our beautiful friend Tom Zimney, who I get to work with so much with Bruce and E Street, as a courtesy, had just sent some pictures from some of the session work that's been happening over the last year with E Street. And Amy was the one who said, you know, all the pictures you have of you and the band on your own are nice, but you should use Tom's picture from that he sent. This would be a better cover, please. And that started the ball rolling towards this, you know, weathered album in the package that we have.
Yeah, well, it's
Thanks,
great.
Tom.
So let's go back to the album in a minute. And this time, instead of me picking a song to play and to talk about, why don't you pick one? What track, if you had to select one, is the most representative of the album?
You know, something that's really rough and raw, and it is fairly new. I don't write a lot of protest songs, but I do occasionally speak my mind on issues. And this in particular, over the last few years with the hell we're all going through and the crisis we're in as a country and a government and a planet, Amy's a fierce Twitter warrior, you know, fighting for, you know, women's rights, children's rights, human rights. And a refrain that I have to agree with, sadly, is that men have really screwed things up now at this point in history. And women in general have a reverence for life that men don't. And I think women are less inclined to fall prey to just massive mentally ill greediness at the expense of all common sense and dignity and humanity. So Amy reads a lot of nonfiction, a lot of great stories about women. Of course, we would regularly talk about Malala or, you know, civil rights, Rosa Parks. And when they had the Kennedy Center honors, we were fascinated by, you know, Carmen de Lavallade, who got an award, and just these powerful women who spend a life, maybe not so much in the huge public eye, but doing brilliant humanitarian work as they've been very artistic and shared gifts. So I mentioned those three women in the song. It's kind of my take on a protest song inspired by Amy's work called Rock or Not. It was a very, hey, this rock or not, it's a nice party song. And as I started writing these superficial rock songs, I went, no, I need something deeper. You know, I need more meaning to this title. And of course, with all that was going on, it led to a more serious version called Rock or Not. I'd love to play now.
That is a great track, Nils. Thanks for sharing that one. You know, there are a couple of songs on the album too that are standards for you. And one of them, of course, is No Mercy. Every time I hear that song, you have this incredible ability to reinvent that song almost every time you play it live. And I was just wondering your take, what's the origins of that song? And just give me a sense of how you approach it when you play it live.
Yeah, well, that was one of my mainstays that we, you know, caught a kind of fresh version of, especially with Cindy there. And even these little touches where without any discussion, it was the last, one of the last verses I dropped down. All of a sudden she starts just doing some beautiful oohs and scatting that really, it's like another instrument, you know, past the voice and the harmonies. But in the late 70s, I was taking karate from Jeff Smith, light heavyweight champ of the world at the time. I started working the corner for him, going to fights. And I was always taken where these young men, you know, three-piece suits, very formal, bowing, very respectful of their opponents. Then they get in the ring and it was full contact, no holds bars. And they'd be coming back to the corner and they'd be spitting blood and teeth into the bucket. And it was just this massive mayhem. But when you're in the ring, in the corner, it's a whole other energy and violence. And afterwards, they'd have that very, you know, honorable diplomacy with their opponent. And it just got me to thinking, I got the idea for the song that in real life, there's so many situations where men and women are put in situations, especially as adults, where to protect you or your family, you're forced to hurt somebody, you know, and that should not be. And that's a dilemma of mankind that we're still wrestling with. Like, why is it so desperate? Why is there so much, you know, brilliance and you know, riches and solutions, and so much poverty and homelessness. Why can't we share with each other better? Just for peace, you know, just to be able to walk down the street safely, anywhere, anytime. That's what we're striving to get to. And we're really, you know, shooting ourselves in the foot along the way. But I got the idea for that kind of thing. And a lot of people put out some video putting, you know, footage of Muhammad Ali, who was having, you know, the heyday of his career and then the twilight of it at that time. And I remember going down to DC, doing the pay-per-view at DC Army, watching the Ali fights, you know, live. And just, I just got inspired by that kind of drama of some of these awful situations we're still being put in as adults, where to look out for your own, you have to hurt somebody else. Wrote that song. It was actually one of my better ones. And with you know, this cast of characters, it had a fresh take on it.
Yeah. Are most of your songs partly or entirely autobiographical? I mean, you borrow from your past quite a bit in your songs, it seems.
Yeah, you know, as far as strictly autobiographical, some are, not that many, but I would say, you know, the emotional content is pretty autobiographical in the sense, look, even by the time you're 18 or 19, you probably had your heart broken once or twice, you know, might have had to say goodbye to a grandmother, had some real setbacks in your young life, especially as an adult trying to take care of your own way. So it's easy to put your, you know, maybe the circumstances might be fictional, but the emotions of the characters, I would say, are always, I try to keep them always autobiographical, and it's pretty easy. We've all been, you know, laughed out loud with some joy. We've all shed a tear with some heartbreak at very young ages, and that becomes a kind of a part of our entire life going forward as adults. If you're lucky, you can skip it as children, but they get subjected to it too. So I enjoy having maybe fictional characters that experience autobiographical emotions, which is pretty easy. It gives me freedom to create a lot of different storylines, of course.
Well, look, we talked to you about this for a long time, but I want to make sure we get a little bit of time, because I know you're home and I see a guitar over in the corner there. So before I turn it over to you, and hopefully you'll give us a treat with a song or two, I wanted to say the record, Nils, is a wonderful record. I'm sure fans of yours will really enjoy it. It's a great indication of what you're capable of live, and like I said, the guitar playing is absolutely superlative. It's really a wonderful collection of songs. Congratulations with it, and best of luck with it. And hopefully one of these days, we might be able to hear some of those songs live with the Nils Lofgren Band. We'll see.
Yeah, thanks, Bob. I'm, you know, of course, there's some signed copies at backstreets.com, and you can order through nilslofgren.com. I really appreciate people checking it out, especially since none of us can really go out and hear music right now. And I thank you for spreading the word on it.
What kind of guitar is that?
This is a Gibson L10 from the 1920s.
Nice.
Very
nice.
old.
Yeah.
Very old guitar. It's not a real valuable one, but I love the age of it.
Yeah. I have a 1931 Epiphone F-hole that I picked up. It was a little bit damaged. I had it fixed, and it plays great.
I'm going to sing a song called Crooked Line from the Crooked Line album that I guess, unfortunately, is pretty appropriate to how I'm feeling right now, dealing with the mess we're all in. I'll sing it for you. It's called Crooked Line. Need a license to drive a car. Only need cash to buy a gun. Congress wants a raise. What's worse, they can't get the job done. So I'm gonna learn. I'm gonna learn to draw straight with a crooked line. With a crooked line. Bring back giant condor. Bring back some trust and faith. The human conscience is so troubled. Our own children ain't safe. So I better learn. I better learn to draw straight with a crooked line, with a crooked line. Yes. Learn to fly straight with a broken wing, and to find a song where the birds don't sing. On a living room screen, a silent child dies. 3 feet from a sofa stained by cold carry-out fries. I'm tired of waiting for the world to change. When it does, it may not change my way. So I gotta color what I see and find the beauty in each day, in each day. Yeah, I better learn. I'm gonna learn to go straight with a crooked line. Hey, I better learn. I better learn to go straight with a crooked line, with a crooked line. Yeah, better learn to go straight with a crooked line. Yeah.
An appropriate song, absolutely.
Yeah, well, I was thinking what to sing, and everything I came up with was a little bit too rosy and happy, so I thought I'd throw that one in there. I'd like to sing a song called Miss You See from my old buddy Clarence Clemens. Boy, I miss him more than ever, but, you know, I cherish all the 27 years standing next to him, traveling the world, and what a dear friend. And I believe Clarence's spirit is alive and well, haunting all of us. I know he's haunting me in a very gentle, kind way, thank God. So here we go. The morning sun, it don't shine as bright. The evening stars are dim tonight. Your ancient voice stills my fearful soul. I miss you, see. I miss you, see. I pound my nails, love my wife and kids. My gifts are not as grand as yours. Still this every note you play heals our troubled hearts. I miss you, see. We miss you, see. We miss you, Terry, Danny, John, Lenny, Ray. I miss you, Dad. Your gentle spirit way, still life is grand. We owe so much to you. We miss you all. We miss you, see. God bless you, Clarence. We love you, see. Yeah.
That was great. That was great.
Thank you, man.
And so appropriate too. And I think that song speaks for every Bruce Springsteen and E Street Band fan. It's pretty amazing how they're gone, and yet, like you said, their spirit's still very much with us. So thanks for sharing.
You know, I thank God. I feel him around me and haunting me.
Yeah.
I feel him on stage whenever we get to play, and I asked him for a little help right there. So, God willing, we'll take our dear friends and their spirits back out on the road and the stage. Better days ahead. That's our hope.
Well, thanks for letting us come into your home today, Nils, and best of luck with the album. It's called Weathered, and it's a collection of live recordings from last year's Weathered tour. Nils, best of luck with it again. Thanks, and hopefully we'll see you out there on the road sometime soon after this terrible COVID pandemic is behind us.
Yeah, I'm counting on that, Bob, and thanks for spreading the word on my new record. All the love and peace to everybody out there. Fans, no fans, whatever. Just listen to some music. It's the planet's sacred weapon as we work our way through this and get to better days. God bless everybody.